Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So here at Cittaviveka Monastery, we're into our winter retreat, and over the next few months, the encouragement in the monastic environment is to more focus on the inner work. So, putting down work projects and external activities, external engagement, and just having more time to be more inward, reflective, contemplative. And cultivating the skill of looking after the heart and mind, understanding the heart and mind. Something that maybe in our education we weren't really taught about. We learned in our education, we learned the laws of nature, how plants grow and what helps plants to grow, and economies and external, how the workings of the world. Yeah? But we're not really taught the workings of the mind. About the nature of the mind. And generally, my perception is generally in the world, people tend to think about how can I change, maneuver my world to feel permanent happiness. How can we do that? So I was at university for 3 years, and it came to the third year and the final exams. I thought, when I get these exams finished, I'll be happy, because I wasn't a very keen student. When I get these exams over, I'll be happy, doing the things I want to do. Time to study. So we finished our course, our exams, and engineering was a lot of work. Not like the art students. The art students didn't seem to have as many lectures as the engineers, So a lot of exams, a lot of work, a lot of things to remember. So the exams are over, and then you didn't just go back home. You sort of stayed around to wait for the results, and it was a few weeks. So it was a week of partying, drinking with all my old university friends, because we didn't have any lectures. But the strange thing was, at the end of it all, I thought, I'm doing everything I want, but I don't feel happy. So, strange. Because I thought if I could just do what I want, I'd be happy. Another sort of insight that arose because, I tended towards, having fun and excitement and things. I'm beginning to notice that the more excited I got, the more bored and depressed I got. Like the higher I climb, the farther I fall. So these sort of thoughts came up. Anyway, a few years later, coming across the Buddha's teachings, that explained a lot of things to me. About some of the causes and conditions that brought about those sort of mind states. Just for one thing, at university, those last weeks, not keeping any precepts, drinking, speech, partying, and coming to the conclusion, rather than trying to change the world, change the mind. So yesterday we remembered Ajahn Chah, our Thai teacher. And we had a talk last night, and the emphasis of Ajahn Chah was to learn from experience, not to shy away from experience, but to learn from it. And, very much in his teachings, not about trying to create the perfect world, but trying to change the mind to be at peace with the way the world is. And just an example, so I had the privilege of meeting Ajahn Chah in London back in 1979. I used to go to this house, Vihara, in London where Luang Por Sumedho lived and some other monks. And I go there for, puja, meditation, listen to Dharma talks. And, in May of 1979, Ajahn Chah turned up at the Vihara. And on this particular evening, so May time, June time, warmer weather, windows open, and there was a public house across the road. So during the meditation, I think there's this pop group. We're practicing upstairs in the room, and we're in the upstairs room opposite, across the road. And they were just playing the same old song over and over again. And it wasn't very good. And at the end of the meditation, Luang Por Chah made a comment. He said, "You thought the music was annoying you, but in truth, you were annoying the music." So, this is something that I took to heart, took to mind, to contemplate. "24 years later, I find myself, after 20 years of, in the West, of building monasteries and so quite a busy time really. I had the opportunity to go to Thailand, and I thought to use the time just to have more quiet time for meditation. So I went to this monastery that I quite liked, the atmosphere, and I liked the abbot. And he gave me this really nice kuti, much more spacious than the room I'd had at Amavati. And he said, "Okay, then, no, just do your meditation. No, just go Bindabat in the morning, then the rest of the time's up to you." So that's what I did. I had this routine: go Bindabat in the morning, start meditation, go Bindabat, more meditation, do a bit of study, more meditation. That was really quite nice, quite peaceful after the busyness of the years before. So that first year was just quite idyllic in a way. Everything around was just very supportive, and the atmosphere of the monastery. But then comes the second year, and the monastery becoming more popular, so more people went to come and practice there, and the abbot there allowed temporary monks. So every Vasa there'd be several temporary monks. So you had to build more kutis. And build kutis around the kuti where I was staying. So my nice quiet kuti for the year before was now the sound of banging saws, talking, electrical things. And the reaction to that, annoyance. Oh, what's Hampton, nice quiet monastery. Oh, so much noise. Oh. I think I'll go and see the abbot and see if he'll move me to a quieter kuti. So all these sort of thoughts coming up. Oh, wish to be quiet and won't talk. But then I remember this teaching from Ajahn Chah about not annoying the sound. So rather than getting caught into the thoughts, the complaining thoughts, I started to just breathe in, experiencing annoyance. Breathe out, experience annoyance. Like we chanted Anapanasati Sutta, breathing in, experiencing the mind. Breathing out, experiencing the mind. And interesting experience was sometimes the annoyance would go. The sounds were still there, but the annoyance would go and the mind became peaceful. And it's even as though the sound disappeared into the background. And the main object was just the breath and the peace of being with an in-breath and an out-breath. So I didn't have to change the world. All I had to do was let go. Change the mind. So I didn't move kuti. I didn't go and ask the abbot if I could move to a quieter place. I just used that as my practice. Just to relate a maybe more extreme situation. This is not from my experience, but the story I read about one of the Ajahns in Thailand who became quite well known. His name was Lumpu Khao. And he was on his walking path outside his kuti in the forest, and an elephant came. Now, elephant, there's many stories in Thailand of people being attacked by elephants and killed by elephants. Anyway, he was walking on his walking path, and this elephant came. And of course, his reaction was fear. And maybe from that fear, the elephant might attack me, the elephant might trample me, the elephant might do this to me, do that to me, which is a natural reaction. Or I've got to run back into my kuti, hide, be safe in my kuti. But he didn't. He just carried on walking with his fear. And the elephant stayed there, and he just carried on walking up and down onto the walking path. And his fear went. Because he wasn't getting caught into the thoughts and proliferations that keep the fear going. He stayed actually mindful of the body, just being mindful of his feet touching the ground, physical movement, staying mindful of the body. And he had quite a profound experience and insight, because when his fear went, it left him in a state of bliss. The elephant was still there, but instead of fear, there was bliss. And one of the insights I speculate about is just he really experienced cessation of suffering, the third noble truth of cessation, the sense of I am the fear, I am whatever, went and left his mind in a state of bliss. And he became one of the great monks of Thailand and was regarded as somebody who had realized complete enlightenment. So this is something to contemplate. How much we try to change our world, or how much do we change the mind? Is then the suffering creating the perfect world? Or is it letting go of greed, hatred and delusion? So how many times in our life do we think, oh, if only that situation would change, I can be peaceful. If only that person would go away, I can be peaceful. If only that person would stop talking, I'll be peaceful. How much we always think about, if only this thing will go, I can be peaceful. Rather than how to be at peace with the way it is. Yeah? And this is very much, actually, the Buddha's own teaching. Yeah? And one example is there's this ascetic came to the Buddha. He's a Brahmin, a student Brahmin. And the Buddha said, how does your teacher teach you? And the Brahmin replied, how does your teacher teach you to develop yourself spiritually? He said, well, the teacher teaches us not to hear sounds, not to see sights. In this way, we can develop ourselves spiritually, cut off the senses. And the Buddha's reply was, in that case, a blind and deaf person would be spiritually developed. And that threw the student a bit. The Venerable Nanda was always trying to help out. And he asked how the Buddha practices. And the Buddha said, I see sights, pleasant, unpleasant, like and dislike come up in the mind, but I let it go. And the mind comes back to peace. I see sounds, I see sights, hear sounds, and these bring up reactions, but I let them go and the mind comes to peace. This is the way the Buddha practiced. So, not trying to get away from experience. But be willing to contemplate the reactions to the experience of sights and sounds and whatever we come into contact with in the world we live in. Not an easy practice. Easy to go away from those things that we don't like. But as our dear Ajahn Lumpur would say, the only way out is in. If we don't want to go through these things and experience them, how we go beyond them? And I think we have different capacities to do that. And maybe there are things in life we're not, spiritually equipped to deal with, but just the little things we can start with, those little annoying things. To stay with those people we don't find it easy to be with, to stay with them when we have to. Just be willing to, experience a few challenges that we feel we can handle. Those situations that maybe we don't particularly like. But be able to just observe our reactions to those situations. Monastic life gives us lots of opportunities. In monastic life, you don't choose the people you live with. You just follow a routine. Can't just do what you want. You have to get up in the morning if you don't want to get up. Come to meditation in the evening if you don't want to go to meditation in the evening. But, what you are doing is challenging some of your desires. You're challenging some of your emotions. And that can be beneficial. Not to be a slave to our moods and emotions, but just to do what the routine dictates. So, again, we have to, experience many things. Another nice story from Ajahn Chah. This was about a particular monk who was always looking for the perfect monastery. And Lumpur Chah gave an analogy for him. And he said, you're like somebody who's got some poo on their bag. Okay? So you go to a place, you sit down to meditate. Oh, it's really peaceful here. Nothing to disturb me. Then, ooh, there's a bad smell here. I think I'll go somewhere else. He goes to the next place, sits down. Oh, it's peaceful here. After a while, oh, smells here too. Go to the next place. Yeah. So a restless mind, always thinking about the next place will be better, the next teacher will be better, the next this will be better. always looking for the perfect place where it can just be peaceful. But then do we learn? Do we learn where the source of the unpeacefulness is? Do we learn about the mind if we're always following our restlessness? So this is part of our work, to really understand the mind, understand what is useful in terms of there are useful mind states, but not what are not useful. How to cultivate what is useful and skillful, and how to abandon that which is not useful, not skillful. This is the skill of looking after the heart and mind, and not trying to create the perfect, what we see as perfection on the outside, but really understanding the mind. In terms of looking after the mind, again, not getting caught into certain, thought patterns. So I think it's a common experience for us all that maybe we've done something, say, to help somebody. Intention to help, support, and they've maybe not appreciated it, or even criticised us for it, said not nice things about us to other people. So, how does that affect us? Resentment, anger. But this is the experience of life. And again, how not get caught into the thoughts of resentment and anger that just keep it going. So this has been my experience of doing something to help somebody and being criticised for it, blamed. But I think look after the heart. Don't follow those thoughts that keep the resentment going. People have to own their karma. People have their struggles and people misunderstand. So, how to reflect more skillfully and see the disadvantage of holding on to certain things. And this takes some mental training, a strength of mind that comes through meditation, through the cultivation of mindfulness and wisdom. There's an analogy in the sutras that, just about how, things in the mind can start quite small, like a creeper on a tree. But if we don't attend to it, the creeper grows, eventually it smothers the tree and kills the tree. This is what can happen with the mind. Something starts quite small, but we give it more attention, we give it more fuel. Eventually, it takes over the mind. Now, the mind state I particularly think about in this respect is like anxiety. Anxiety, the thoughts are not bad, they're not evil, the thoughts that come from anxiety. But if we're not aware of that, and we keep it going, then anxiety can take over the mind, can't it? So a lot of people have a lot of problems with anxiety now. But it started small, but there was no awareness of it. So if we are aware of it, then maybe we can start to contemplate differently. Stay more in the present moment. Because anxiety is about time, isn't it? What could happen, what might happen. Which, sometimes we have to consider these things, but if they become the over-preoccupation of the mind, then it can take one over. So this is, the willingness to experience, understand what keeps, to be aware of these things. And understand them. Part of that, is the willingness to accept that this is a natural experience of life. Because some of these mind states, because they're not particularly pleasant, we resist them. Rather than willingness to learn and understand them. Investigate them. How does this mind state feel? What sort of thoughts keep it going? How to contemplate maybe some of the causes and conditions around these mind states. For instance, with anxiety, what is some of the causes and conditions why anxiety arises? In my experience, it's about anxiety about experiencing something unpleasant. The anxiety of giving a Dharma talk because people might not like it. You might feel a sense of failure. Go into a situation that you don't know whether you're going to be able to. It might be unpleasant. Again, through meditation, if we're actually willing to experience something unpleasant, that gives us a strength. And that, in effect, lessens our anxiety. Because we know we can bear with it. Do the best we can. So that's something to, we can do also to contemplate some of the causes and conditions around some of these mind states we experience. The things that make us angry. Why? Again, we can contemplate. We don't have to just be a slave to the angry thoughts, but why? Why do I get angry over this? Idealism. We have our ideals. So like, in the monastery we have our sort of guidelines about how we live. So, cultivating contentment, respectfulness, things like this. But then somebody comes to the community, they're not respectful, they're not content, they're disruptive, demanding. And if we cling to the ideals of contentment, then we get angry with them. Like Ajahn Chah said in that talk yesterday, if we cling to the good, then the bad follows. We cling to even good things, good ideals, but if we cling to them, then when things don't live up to the ideals, we get right to Sangha. So these are sort of things to really contemplate, to understand, reflect on. And this is how we get wise, seeing the causes and conditions around how some of these mind states arise. One time, my older sister came to visit Amaravati Monastery. And it was a situation like this, and Lumpur Sudhito was giving a talk. And my sister stood up right in front of him and asked him a question in the middle of his talk. Reaction. But after I thought to myself, if that had been somebody else's sister, would I have reacted the same? Probably not. No? But because of that attachment, that's what happens. But that's all right, just to understand that principle. How certain reactions come about to our own attachments and our ideals and expectations. And then we can learn to lessen that force of attachment. So that's something to ask yourself. If somebody close to you does something that annoys you, ask yourself, if this was somebody else doing it, would you react the same? So we understand how our attachments affect the way we react to things. So this is what we're contemplating here on our retreat, learning from experiences. And just what I mentioned earlier in my talk, are we trying to change the world in a way to make us more peaceful? Or are we trying to change the mind to be peaceful with the way the world is? So it's something to contemplate and reflect on. So I'll finish with these thoughts this evening.